What about the men's national team? Because when I think about that, I think about, I mean, my career, I think, was particular because I didn't have like a significant professional club kind of history or path. But with the women's national team, when we won Concacaf in 1998, it was like the previous generation before me, like the Jerry Donnellys and the Silvana Bertinis and the Sharman Hoopers, where their first ever World Cup was in 1995, but then they were always second fiddle to the Americans. And that continued for a really, really long time. And because the US hosted the Women's World Cup in 1999, they weren't in CONCACAF. So that was like our first trophy. Like, remember I told you guys a story about how we beat Puerto Rico 21-0? So it was part of that CONCACAF qualifying tournament, but it was us and Mexico in the final. And for us to be able to beat Mexico and kind of like finally lift a trophy, that was pretty significant, as was our victory over the US in 2001, where we beat them 3-1 away to Columbus. And it was the first time in our program's history that we'd done that. So, and that was sort of the beginning of the next generation doing it themselves too.
You beat Puerto Rico 21-0.
Mm-hmm.
Did you score?
No, we've talked about this. I set up lots of goals, Jimmy.
Okay.
Covered the midfield really well. Covered every blade of grass. No goal though. You know what? Before you get on me about that, 5 goals and 102 caps, you had what, 50 odd caps, 51 with Canada?
Yep.
How many goals again?
7.
Oh, shit.
Pretty good. And I've seen a
rate
couple.
Than me.
Yeah, go to YouTube. The ones in where was it, in Vienna or like Austria? I think you were playing. Yeah. There was a couple bangers there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where he points to the back of his jersey.
Yeah. There was no name on our jerseys back then.
That's right.
Yeah, it was the Velcro names and numbers.
Yeah. And but going back to what you were saying, Dubs, I mean, I think when we won the Gold Cup in 2000 and then 2002, we're talking about the teams that you think can go on to win again, and we ended up playing the States in the semifinals, and we lost to them in penalties in 2002. And that was actually going into that match. We thought we're going back to back here, and we're going to win another Gold Cup. And it was a great game, competitive game, as it always is against the Americans. And we went into penalties, ended up losing, but then we finished third, beating South Korea. But that was probably the moment as well with the national team where I thought we could have had a back-to-back here, but we just couldn't get over the line. And we had a good squad.
Did you think that win, the historic one where you guys won the Gold Cup, did that flip a switch in terms of your mentality or proving that you could do it? That you could win something, you could win trophies? And if so, obviously it was fleeting because you didn't do it again. Yeah,
we had a good squad, but it was a transition as well because Forrest retired as well. He wasn't at the 2002 Gold Cup. A few players retired, the older guys, but then we did have some younger players that were coming through at the time who were decent, and we thought we've got a good squad here. We can go back to back, and unfortunately we couldn't do it.
Player of the tournament, I think, too, didn't he?
Who's that?
De Guzman?
I think so, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that's what's different now. I mean, obviously it's a long time since then, like the men's national team, but also the women's national team. But the success that they're having on the world stage, I mean, the women have done it for a long time. But what the men are doing now and sort of proving to themselves that they can hang, because like somebody can tell you that you have all the pieces, you have all the qualities, you have the talent, you have the right mentality, but until you do it yourself, then it's almost like that's what you need to do. And I think the men's national team now, under the tutelage of Jessie Marsh, having the success at Copa, and then the women's national team having the success at the Olympics, even though they failed to do it at World Cups, it's enough to say, like, every time they show up for a match, doesn't matter who's staring back at them, that they can do it. It's absolutely a winnable match. And that is contagious, that type of feeling. And then that gets imbued into the fan base. And I think that's where we're just kind of at a tipping point in Canada. We've talked for a long time about whether or not we're a soccer nation, but I think the success that the women's team has had and the men's team is now having, I think that might be the difference now going forward as we get really close to 2026, and they're about to kick off in Nations League against a Mexican side that they've shown they can beat. right?
Yeah, I don't think that the team is struggling for confidence as much as it would be nice for them to win something. It would be. This team and the individuals are playing at clubs that have been successful, so they've had the taste of success. And I think you're right; it is contagious, and it becomes a habit of winning. So this is a big tournament and big matches coming up for our men's national team as far as with a chance to win something. And if they do, I think that'll put them in really good stead.
Is this what they're about now, Jimmy? Do you think like they've built the foundation and now it's about the silverware? Now it's about winning trophies?
It is. I mean, look, they've talked about it. They want to win. They want trophies. And I think they've got a good enough squad. They've got good depth for them to be challenging for silverware. And I think they're in a great spot right now going into this next few games that they have on Thursday and Sunday. And then after that, you got a Gold Cup that they should be eyeing to win and bring that trophy home.
We're going to be talking about this all week, but is there if they don't make the final versus whomever, but right now it looks like the U.S. will, I have no idea how good Panama is, but U.S. is rated higher.
Panama's very good.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, so anything can happen. And Mexico's been playing well. Getting a beer can in the head has seemed to inspire them, of their coach Aguirre. Would it
proud of
be
you, Wonger, for pronouncing his name right?
Well, we've been hearing it enough, so I want to make sure that I'm not bashed on social media. But is it a disappointment? Is it an upset now with the confidence, with Jesse Marsh saying, never had we had a better team than this, or better talent, at least, whether it's the team or not? Is that a disappointment going in and maybe playing for a third place against the U.S. or Panama on Sunday if we lose to Mexico? Is it underperforming? Or can anything happen in CONCACAF and you just kind of roll the dice?
Well, let's not. I mean, you have to get it right. They've got to beat the two powerhouses in CONCACAF back to back to win this thing. So there's a lot of pressure on them, and they're two good sides, and there's a lot of things can go right and a lot of things can go wrong. But they're certainly capable of doing it, and that's what they're going to try to do.
Do you think now with the I think, just to answer your question, Wonger, before I move on to something else and maybe give Jimmy a chance as well, I think it would be viewed as a disappointment. I think the expectations are high, but given the talent that's assembled, as you mentioned, with this roster, perhaps their best ever, even though I think some injuries and then what they decided or what was concluded about Richie Larea and his injury, that it was like a medium-term hamstring issue, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he'll be available to play. So will he get replaced on that roster, or will they move somebody over? Maybe Jimmy, you can speak to that, solutions on that left side. But yeah, I think that expectations are high, but rightly so. So I think that you continue on this upward trajectory, it means winning that semifinal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's enough confidence and belief within this squad that they'll be looking at this thinking we're the best team in CONCACAF, and they're going to want to go out there and prove it.
Do you think, given the players that were left out or left off this Nations League roster, do you think that they will make a swap for Richie, given the severity or kind of the medium-term recovery for his injury?
Yeah, for sure. You'll have a reserve list of players that'll be waiting to see what happens, and obviously if Richie can't be in the squad, then they'll pull somebody else in. Who that player is going to be, I don't know, but they'll definitely have somebody lined up if anybody has to drop out.
Anybody you can think of that might fill in? Like Broguillard comes to mind. He hasn't really had a whole lot of time, I think, lately. You've got Bassong, who's been in. Heber, is that how you say his last name? Heber, who can play fullback and center back, right? Like these might be players that are potentially on Marsh's radar. Yeah.
Well, normally, if a defender's dropping out, you try to replace it with another defender. So
thanks, tips.
Just trying to help your question out.
Okay, appreciate it.
But I don't know which one they're gonna bring in. out of the players that you mentioned, which defender it will be. I have no idea, because I don't know enough about, how they're performing right now, the players that are on that reserve list that are just waiting to see if they're going to end up going. But I'm sure Jesse Marsh has got a plan, and he'll have his eyes on someone to bring into the squad.
Yeah.
Guys, when playing 3 hours later, like there's guys flying in, and I know you guys played in Mexico and you played in LA. Is that jet lag tough to get? Because now they're playing at 10:30. They've got the second match because they wanted to get the US Panama primetime match. So now they're playing, and not that Canada won't be a primetime match, but it's a 10:30 match. And so for our European players, club players, now all of a sudden you're talking not just 5 hours, you're talking like a full day, half day, that it's different, because now you're also playing at 10:30 instead of 7:30. How difficult is that to get into that, hey, I'm ready to play? And do you feel it at 11:30 second half, if you're all of a sudden it's 5 in the morning for you, it's 8 in the morning for you? How difficult is that, Craig?
It is difficult. Hopefully they get in and with enough time to recover from the travel, and I think they will, but it does take several days, and it's something that can linger for sure with that time change. You see it even just in Major League Soccer with a 3-hour time change from coast to coast, playing late in the evening. If you're traveling from the east out to the west and you're playing late at night, it absolutely has an effect. But hopefully with the national team, with the few days that they will be there to acclimatize to the time change and whatnot, will be enough for them to be ready. But that's down to the staff.
Yeah. And you got to think too, a lot of these guys would have played on Saturday in the leagues wherever they are in Europe, and then Sunday you're going to travel, and then Monday would probably be your first training session with the team. And then, look, they try to set it up where, you can have a lie-in and then maybe early afternoon training session. But they'll do a lot to get you acclimatized to the time changes. But it does creep up on you.
And is everybody in the same mode, like dragging their ass at first? Like, is there a team kind of feel?
Yeah, the European guys, for sure. But then the guys that are playing in MLS, it's not as bad as what the Europeans are going to feel.
No, for sure. It's just there's a lot of Europeans, the guys from Liga.
Yeah.
I think we were looking at Dubs that there's someone made a really cool graphic. We'll share it tomorrow on tomorrow's show. But it's where everyone's from, and I beg to think that it's a difficult trek. Some of these. I mean, I know Craig jumped on the plane to go play the Socceroos and lost in penalty kicks, and you were jammed in. Maybe they're not flying like you were back in the day, economy minus, as they called it. It's like it's not as good as economy. Yeah, because you get the seat right at the back by the bathroom that doesn't go back, right?
Yeah. Took a few sleeping pills.
I still laugh at that time when you took a sleeping pill and the plane didn't leave.
Tough one.
Oh my God!
And you had to get off the plane. Pop the sleeping pills. You could barely move.
Were you with him?
No, he was telling me a story about it. I was dying.
Yeah, I was so happy. I thought we had flown all the way back and woke up and we hadn't even left the freaking airport yet.
So no sense of time at all. You must have been so disoriented.
Oh yeah, sluggish to say the least.
Oh my God. So when you finally got back on the plane and you were about to taxi and take off and get to where you were going, did you have to like re-up on your sleeping pill, or were you able to at least sleep then?
Get off, go back through customs, deal with all that, and then come back to the airport the next day.
Oh my God. So new drugs, new sleeping pills.
Yeah, I was fine. I was fresh as a daisy.
But going back to your question, Wonger, like I had the chance to go all over the world with the national team. And I always found, as long as even if you hadn't slept very much in a plane, even if you're going to Australia or New Zealand or Japan, the amount of times that we went to China and then we would stay in Singapore and kind of have our camp there for a couple of weeks to get acclimatized to not only the weather, but to the time change. I always found it was much easier going east. And then, or even if it was going to Europe, right? So this is the kind of more relevant to our discussion now. But then coming back, like going west, I found it really, really challenging to get back on to a sleep schedule. And I even found going from Montreal, from Eastern time to Pacific time, going to Vancouver or going to California for camps or for matches, as a lot of these MLS players are going to be doing. That mess is just like a subtle change, but it's like staying up for meetings or trying to stay up and not going to bed at like 8 because you're absolutely bagged. Like you're just like, no, I have to make sure I stay up until at least 10. Like I found that just little hump to get over actually quite challenging.